It is official like a referee with a whistle. The NFL has set the cap, and it is a $30 million increase. So, we're going to talk about right now these two moves that the 49ers need to make this offseason in order to get back to the Super Bowl. But before we get into that, you can tell how excited I am. I'm kind of like at a loss for breath, like because you guys know the Brian the Brian Burns hive is absolutely buzzing right now. So I'm going to tell you exactly why. Shout out to our guy, David Lombardi of The Athletic. Does a phenomenal job on YouTube as well. If you want to know Cap, go to David Lombardi. He's got that stuff on lock. This is what David Lombardi says. There are 2 seasons of the salary cap. Off season when only top 51 contracts count, and in season when the 53-man counts. Under 255.4 million cap plus about 38 million of the 2023 carryover. The 49ers currently have about 4.6 of the 2024 salary cap space per Spotrac. SF can open up to 98 million more via restructures. So the San Francisco 49ers right now are rolling over money from last year, and they get a $30 million increase from the new announcement of the cap. And obviously, as you can see by Lombardi and what he's saying, if the 49ers want to add additional cap space, they got to restructure. And that is definitely a possibility with a few big time players who are getting paid, and they can spread that money out. So the 49ers right now have all the options in the world when it comes to signing players, extending players, and going out and trading for players. But this is the first move that the San Francisco 49ers need to make in order to make sure they get back to the Super Bowl. And that is with hashtag pay Brandon Aiyuk. Now, you can see based on this Spotrac projection, they are evaluating his contract at a 3-year, $67 million value, which has an average of $22.3 million per year. I think Brandon Aiyuk is going to want a little bit more. I think he's definitely going to be looking at upwards of 4 years on the deal. And I think it could even reach upwards of over 100 million because, as you can see, the average salary is sitting around 23 million. I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking for about 25, 26 million per year on average. But the San Francisco 49ers have a ton of funds, and now they can go out and get that done. I think you have to go out and sign Brandon Aiyuk to a extension. He's 25 years old. It's going to be 26 pretty soon. But you have the opportunity to go out and make sure that this guy sticks around for a long time. And we've seen the rapport that Brandon Aiyuk has built with Brock Purdy. You have to assume that's only going to get better. So I think you got to pay him, and you got to pay him like a top tier wide receiver. You can see the contracts here listed out below of what the other players, kind of in the comparable range are getting. You can see AJ Brown getting at 25. I think this is the deal right here that would get this done. At least that's the way that I'm thinking. If you can give Brandon Aiyuk 25 million per year on average, 4-year length for 100 mil, and guarantee 60% of that or more, I'm hopeful that that would be able to get it done. So that to me is the first move that the 49ers need to make. Shore up, get Brandon Aiyuk signed, put that to bed so we can move on and do other things. And right now, this is what I think the next move needs to be. Go out and trade for Brian Burns. The Brian Burns hive is buzzing, and this is a little bit more complicated because he's not a free agent. So the San Francisco 49ers will likely have to pry him away from the Panthers. Brian Burns is eligible to be franchise tagged. He hasn't received the tag yet, but will likely get it. And so I don't think Brian Burns and the Carolina Panthers are necessarily in a good spot right now. I think there is a huge opportunity to be able to pry Brian Burns away. I don't think he's happy where he's at. I don't think, they just had a huge turnover within the organization, new general manager, new head coach. And he had to change positions last year. He went from a defensive end for the first couple years of his career to going to outside linebacker. So he had to go and do more coverage. He is a guy, but he's versatile like that, and he played well. But it also wasn't the biggest year for him. But Brian Burns, man, has so much raw ability, so much raw talent, and even under those circumstances, Brian Burns still put up 9 sacks last year, playing from the outside linebacker position. Um, so it was a bit of a down year in regards to sacks, where he had 13 sacks the year prior. But when you look at his sack totals and sack production year in, year out, the lowest was 8, and that was his rookie season. After that, in his sophomore season, had 10 sacks. In 2021, had 9. 2022, 13. And like we said, this past season, he had he had 9 sacks. But this guy is an expert at getting after the quarterback and creating pressures and quarterback hurries. I mean, he has 144 quarterback hurries throughout his career, 53 quarterback hits. This guy gets after it. And again, he's shown he can even do it in coverage if you need it. But I mean, you can look at even some of these grades: 85 coverage grade, 86 coverage grade, 78 coverage grade. I mean, it's not the best, but averaging out at 77.7 over the entire season, that's pretty darn good. But we know we want him as a pass rusher. That's what we're looking for. The 6'5, 250-pound Brian Burns, who's still 25 years old. This would be a home run hit. And I know what some of you guys are already going to say. What about Chase Young? Well, Chase Young is a quality prospect as well. However, I do think the 49ers could benefit from him signing a lucrative deal elsewhere, recouping a comp third pick, and using that potential pick or a different pick to go out and get Brian Burns. And so we talked about it. You got to pay him, you got to trade for him. So it's definitely a difficult task, but this is how we do it. The 49ers have the 31st overall pick. I know a lot of you want to go out and get an offensive lineman, but I've talked about this at nauseum. You're not going to find an elite level offensive lineman at 31. You might be able to find a guy who can develop into an elite level offensive lineman at 31, but you're not getting a blue chip guy at tackle, and you might miss out on the blue chip interior offensive lineman as well. So with that being said, and at that point, you're going to miss out on the blue chip edges as well. All the blue chippers are likely gone at this point. So why not take that pick 31, send it to Carolina, also add a comp third to the mix, and I would even be willing to add, hey, let's throw in a fifth if you need to. We can package a deal together, I believe, after Brian Burns had a down year, all things considered, and you can go out and get this. Also, you have to keep into account the price tag to go get him is likely going to be less because you're signing and trade. You're trading to sign. So because you're trading to sign, that is, you're not like where he was in 2021, where the Rams tried to get 2 first-round picks for him because he still had 2 years of rookie cost control. That's not the case anymore. Now you got to pay him. That time is here. So the reason why I think this is viable is you can pay Brandon Aiyuk and you can pay Brian Burns, and you can have the most formidable defensive line in the NFL. And if there's anything that we've heard about John Lynch and this organization and Kyle Shanahan and how they build, it literally starts with the defensive line. So if your goal is to get back to the Super Bowl, and we saw how challenging it was to find a quality edge on the opposite side of Nick Bosa, they had to go make 2 trades in season. Well, let's solidify it. Go out and get these 2 guys and put them on your bookends and wreak havoc in the NFL. absolutely wreak havoc. This dude has elite first step get off, elite speed off the edge, elite spin move. He's got everything you want as a pass rusher. He will provide absolutely everything you need. Re-sign Cleveland Farrell so you can use him in base downs, and this dude just comes screaming off the edge and fills in that D Ford role where we saw so much success from the San Francisco 49ers in that package. So I'm all board. You already know. I think the 49ers need to do this. I think that we know that John Lynch called on Brian Burns' availability last year. So if he was interested in trading for Brian Burns last year and trying to get a pulse on that, then why wouldn't he be interested this year? What's the difference? They would still be in the same scenario. And if Brian Burns came in and played really well, they could really do something here. I do think there is a potential option where you could also maybe talk with Brian and say, listen, we're going to slap you with the franchise tag and give you a year to potentially prove and maybe even make more money. And then we'll talk about long-term contract extension after that. I think that's a less likely potential, but still, if you can add a player of Brian Burns' caliber and you can use the 31st overall pick and some additional back end picks in a draft where you have 11, do it. I don't want to hear, oh, it's too expensive. It's this, it's that. No, you have the opportunity to go and get one of the elite edge rushers in the league and pair him with Nick Bosa. You do that. If you can do it, you do it. Exhaust all options. Go for it. I'm telling you, the Brian Burns hive is buzzing. I'm very happy, as you can see. I'm very excited about this. And because this, to me, is a real possibility if they wanted to do this. Now, again, it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, and it will take some heavy lifting and some definite negotiations going on and all that stuff. But if there's a will, there's a way. And I'm about it. Go get Brian Burns, extend Brandon Aiyuk. What do you think the two moves the 49ers should make with all this money? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.